So, we are going to kick off the hour today with some rather sad and tragic news. You've probably heard this, but internet freedom activist Aaron Swartz committed suicide last Friday. He was only 26 years old. I personally did not know him. I knew very much of his work. Even if you've never actually heard of Aaron, if you are listening to this show, you've actually benefited from some of Aaron's work. When Aaron was, I think, 14 or so, he was one of the creators of the RSS technology, which revolutionized internet content distribution. He was also one of the co-founders of Reddit. What I was most familiar with him for was, frankly, his work founding the group Demand Progress. If you'll remember, Demand Progress was one of the key groups in organizing the defeat of the SOPA and PIPA bills. If you remember from last year, the bills that would have legalized the United States government censoring the internet. Democracy Now! On Monday, to honor his work, played a whole 20-minute plus speech that he gave on the subject of stopping SOPA and PIPA. And that whole speech is well worth your time. You should check out Democracy Now! From Monday. It's also one of the few, frankly, privacy and free speech victories that we've had in recent memory, the defeat of SOPA and PIPA. He was one of the main people whose organizing actually stopped those horrible, horrible bills. Look, frankly, he's one of the people that saved the internet as we know it right now. I mean, for the time being, let's be honest here. This is a fight that we are going to have again and again and again. As Aaron pointed out in his speech that they played on Democracy Now!, this is not a fight that's over, but for the time being, we have stopped it. And so I mean, for me personally, look, without the internet, the internet as it is now, this show, frankly, would not exist. I would not be doing what I am doing right at this moment. So I'm personally very grateful to Aaron and to all the internet freedom activists who worked so hard to stop those ridiculous bills. I don't know if you remember last year, but at the time, folks, it really did look like there was no way that SOPA and PIPA were going to be stopped. It really looked like they were going to pass, and we stopped them. We stopped them due to Aaron, to activists like him, to listeners like you who called the Congress, who called the Senate. We actually did stop those bills from passing. So let's fast forward a bit. Let's fast forward to the summer of 2011. So at the time, Aaron was arrested for downloading millions of, not movie files, not MP3s. He was arrested for downloading millions of academic articles from an academic database called JSTOR. What he did was he actually plugged a laptop into MIT's network in a supply closet in their library. Now, frankly, okay, he wasn't an MIT student at the time, so technically he could be charged with trespassing for actually tapping into their network to download. But supposedly his intent in downloading all of these articles was to make all of these academic articles available for free to everyone. Which, by the way, it needs to be noted, he never actually did get to that point because he was arrested. So for some context here, just to explain what he was charged with, this academic database, JSTOR, was charging a great deal of money, a very high fees, for other academics to access these articles, this academic research that has been digitized and uploaded as PDF files. Much of this academic research, you need to remember, much of this academic research was in fact funded by taxpayer dollars, because taxpayer dollars subsidize universities, and therefore we as taxpayers subsidize universities and therefore benefit from some of the things that these studies create. So And it needs to be noted that none of the money that the database JSTOR collected actually went to the authors of these articles. Well, the articles are essentially college professors. None of the money actually went to the authors or the professors. It just went to the company, the JSTOR company. So here's the deal. So Aaron is caught downloading all of these academic articles. He's arrested. However, JSTOR, the company, the database company, actually decides that it does not want to press charges against Aaron. In fact, soon after the arrest, JSTOR actually decides to make these articles available for free, which frankly they should be. So good on JSTOR for what they did. So he downloads them, which was legal. He legally could download them, but he never actually distributed them. So he actually broke no laws in the actual downloading of these articles. He was never going to make any money off of these articles. His supposed intent was to make academic research available to everyone for free. Glenn Greenwald writes at The Guardian, quote, even if all of the allegations in the indictment are true, the only real crime committed by Swartz was basic trespassing, for which people are punished at most with 30 days in jail and a $100 fine, end quote. So, 30 days max, $100 fine. That's what he should have been charged with at most. That is not what he was charged with at all. That is not the charges he faced at all. The prosecutor, a Boston-based DA serving under Attorney General Eric Holder, the Boston-based DA, Carmen Ortiz, frankly, threw the book at him. They threw the book at him. Felony charges levied against him carried a possibility of 35 years in prison, over $1 million in fines. That's a lot. 35 years and over $1 million in fines. The Boston-based DA reportedly rejected numerous plea deals, including one last week, which reportedly would have sent Aaron to prison for 6 months. They rejected that one, it's been reported. His family released a statement on his suicide, on his death, saying, quote, I'm going to read it here. Aaron's death is not simply a personal tragedy. It is the product of a criminal justice system rife with intimidation and prosecutorial overreach. Decisions made by officials in the Massachusetts U.S. Attorney's Office and at MIT contributed to his death. The U.S. Attorney's Office pursued an exceptionally harsh array of charges, carrying potentially over 30 years in prison to punish an alleged crime that had no victims. Meanwhile, unlike JSTOR, MIT refused to stand up for Aaron and its own community's most cherished principles. End quote. That's a statement from Swartz's family. Frankly, what this whole story, the whole story of his prosecution really does show is how truly broken and corrupt our justice system is, which we've talked about this on the show before, but this is another example of truly how broken it is. Again, we're talking about a crime that literally had no victim, that hurt no one, and he faced 35 years in prison. Think Progress actually came up with a list of crimes that you can commit and get less potential jail time than Aaron Swartz faced. You can commit manslaughter and get a maximum of 10 years in prison. You can commit bank robbery, actually robbing a bank. That is a maximum 20 years in prison. You can sell child pornography and only get 20 years in prison. You can sell slaves, and get 20 years in prison. Here's a good one. You can help Al-Qaeda produce a nuclear weapon and get merely 20 years in prison. The Al Qaeda one, you'd probably get rendered and be placed in a secret prison without charges. They probably wouldn't actually charge you if you helped Al Qaeda. They probably would just, assassinate you, because again, Obama says he can assassinate you without a trial. So that's probably what would happen on the last one. But seriously, according to the law, and not really according to the law, downloading these academic articles are totally on par, or actually worse than manslaughter, bank robbery, child pornography, selling slaves, helping Al Qaeda with a dirty bomb. How is that worse? This 26-year-old faced 35 years for downloading academic articles, which eventually were made free, by the way. But need I remind you that not one Wall Street banker who literally ruined the lives of millions, who destroyed the lives of millions, who literally cost countless families their actual homes, their savings, their retirements, their very lives in some instances, not one of them is charged. Not one of them is in prison. Hell, Wall Street bankers dine with President Obama. They're invited to the bloody White House. If HSBC bankers, I don't know if you saw this story, HSBC were the bank, I can't even believe this. HSBC bankers, they were literally caught laundering money for Mexican drug cartels. Red-handed, these bankers were caught laundering drug money for Mexican cartels. Not a single one of them will be serving any prison time. Not a single one. All they got was a fine. A fine that, by the way, according to Alternet, is worth only 4 weeks of HSBC's pre-tax profits. This is nothing to them. Will the drug dealers that sold the drugs, will they get a fine? Will the drug addicts who bought the drugs and used the drugs, will they just get a fine? Of course they won't. They'll be going to bloody prison with the rest of the little people. But the bankers get a fine. A fine. The New York Times had a report this weekend that fines like this, the one that HSBC got, like the one that Bank of America got for mortgage fraud. These fines, ladies and gentlemen, get this, these fines are actually tax deductible. Corporations can write off fines of criminality as business expenses. We, the taxpayers, are literally paying their fines. Another example, did those who tortured and authorized torture get arrested? Are they in prison? Did those who lied us into war that cost tens of thousands of American lives, hundreds of thousands of Iraqi lives, Afghani lives, did they get arrested? Are they in prison? No, they got book deals. They're on Sunday talk shows. Will the people who supposedly leaked the secret details to be used in the torture porn, the pro-torture piece of garbage, Zero Dark 30, will they get prosecuted? Those who leaked these secret Bin Laden death details, will they face jail time for what they leaked? Of course they won't. Of course they won't. But download academic journals? You're a bloody evil criminal, and you are going to go to jail for 35 years. Our justice system is so very, very, very broken. I would say it's a joke, but it's not a joke. Well, maybe, frankly, all right, maybe it's a joke to the 1%. Maybe it's a joke to our elites that they get protected at all cost and they can do anything and get away with it. But I'll tell you, it sure as hell is not a joke to the people whose lives it has destroyed and continues to destroy to this day. Just ask Aaron Swartz's family and his friends if they think that our justice system is funny. We'll be right back.